Okay. So good morning. So we resume the previous discussion. So we were discussing about the CNNs, and then in convolutional neural networks, we discussed about receptive field. We also discussed about some of the aspects of forward propagation. So we are discussing now on the overall flow of the convolutional neural networks, and also we will discuss more on the back propagation. So as we can see here, the earlier layers extract the low level features, and as you go on, the deeper features extract the high level features. Thus, the receptive field for the earlier feature maps can be smaller. Okay, and because they only need to extract locally relevant features with small receptive fields, and for the deeper layers, what they need to extract are the features which are high level, or which may look at the whole image or a large region in the images. Okay, and hence they will have high receptive field. And finally, these features which look at roughly the whole image or large parts of the image can be made into one dimension for subsequent classification. Okay, so now let us move on to the discussion on how we initialize the weights first of all, and then how do we do back propagation. So just to start or discuss a little, okay, on the initialization of weights, which are the things to be initialized here, or what are the aspects to be learned in this convolutional neural network. So let me complete the forward flow with a couple of other slides. So what else need to be seen in the forward flow? So after this fully connected layer, okay, this will convert into 192 cross 1 number of neurons, and these are connected to the output neurons of 10 cross 1, and this will be a fully connected network. Okay, and each of the 192 will be connected to 10. So the number of weights or connections here is equal to how much? 192 here and 10 here. How many weight elements will be there? Weight matrix element?
192 cross 10.
Yeah, 192 cross 10. Okay, and after this, what do you think will happen? Just to get an idea before we perform the initialization and back propagation. Well, after this, what do you think will happen? This 9 neurons will give some arbitrary outputs. If I initialize randomly, okay, the weights all through, then they will give some random outputs, and these random outputs may or may not match, okay, with respect to the desired outputs. Okay, and then we find out the error, either in terms of mean square error or cross entropy or whatever, and then back propagate them to adjust or learn the parameters of this neural network. Okay, or convolutional neural network. Now the question is, say, which are the, before we start on to the initialization and back propagation, what are all the parameters to be learned in this neural network? Can one of you tell? What are the parameters to be learned?
Weights for the kernels and biases.
Right, very good. So now let us see how many overall. Okay, we have discussed layer by layer previously, but now let us see overall which are all the parameters to be learned. Let us start from the first layer. Okay, and then just try to figure out which are the parameters to be learned. So first layer, what are those things? So let me so first start from here. Also, there is some kernel parameters to be learned. What are the dimensions of this?
And 5 cross 6.
Yeah, we said 5 cross 5 kernels we want to use. Okay, and then 6 feature maps we want to get in subsequent layer, 5 cross 5 cross 6. Okay, and then where else there are learnable parameters? Here, are there any? Go layer after layer. Are there any learnable parameters here?
No, sir.
No, okay. Because pooling or subsampling, essentially, we just take the, it's in some sense a known operation, okay, or in some sense deterministic operation. So essentially, just to give an example, okay, we will probably, I think there are some slides to show this pooling also with better examples, but let me try to give a small example for getting an intuition. Okay, assume that these are the values. Okay, in this feature map. Okay, whichever you have here, these are the values. Or in this small region, these are the values. Now what I want to do, I want to pull and put at this location. Okay, that's my objective. So when I want to pull, say if I use max pulling, what is the output I get in this subsequent layer? To the next layer, what will be there through max pulling?
6.
It will be 6. That's all. Okay, nothing else. Representing the whole thing, we will get only 6. If I do average pulling, if we do average pulling, what is the value?
4.5.
Yeah. Okay, somebody can calculate. So 1 by 4 into, okay, so 10 plus 8, 18. So it is 4.5. Okay, so average pulling will give this. So this is a known kernel. So how we get this is a very like by a standard procedure. Okay, there is no learnable thing here. Okay, that means for each different values here, you don't adopt different procedure, or say for each different layer here, you don't adopt different procedures. Okay, it's just standard or same procedure all through. Okay. Okay. Now let us move on to this layer. From here, this layer to this layer. So here there are 6 maps. Okay, and we have here 12 maps. Okay, and here to here, what are all the learnable parameters? K2 let us denote with. What are all the learnable parameters?
Will be 5 cross 5 cross 12.
5 cross 5 cross. Okay, 5 cross 5 cross.
6 cross 12.
6 cross 12. Because 5 cross 5 cross 6 are needed for getting from these feature maps to one of the map here. Okay, for all using all this. Okay, if you want to get one map, you need 5 cross 5 cross 6. Okay, for such 12 to come, you need 5 cross 5 cross 6 cross 12. Okay, fine. And here again, are there any learnable parameters?
No, sir.
No. Here, are there any learnable parameters? The dimension of this is 192 cross 1. And dimension of this is 10 cross 1. From here to here, are there any learnable parameters? What is that?
192 cross 10.
192 cross 10. Okay, so it is 1920. Okay, so now overall, these are all the learnable parameters. Correct? So now the question is, how do we start this learning process? So these are all learnable parameters, fine. But how do we start this learning process is the question. So you have anyway, see, finally assume that we also, after this, we assume that for simplicity, just to start, okay, so there are some output values here at each of the output neurons. Okay, and these values we want to check with respect to the desired output or target output T. Okay, these are output values, and then T is our target outputs. And then the error is J equal to like mean square error. Exactly like what we have been doing before. Okay, just for simplicity, let us start from this. Okay, this is the error. Now I want to do backpropagation and all fine, but let us try to understand how do we initialize these things, because we need to start, right? So we start with random initialization of all these kernel values. So overall here, if you see, okay, how many? 150, I think. Okay, and here it is 1800. Okay, and then 1900. So overall close to 3000 yeah, close to 4000, assume that. Okay, for 4000 elements we need to learn. So we initialize all of them through some procedure, right? We need to initialize them in some procedure. So how do we initialize them is initially randomly we initialize. And what is the range for this random initialization? Okay, and at each layer, do we have a different procedure of initialization? On that we need to look at. One thing to notice, initialization is also a very important part in learning of convolutional neural network. The reason is, see, you finally, what are we doing? With the, say, for example, these features are, say, if we see even in terms of weights, how many weight elements are there? As we have seen, okay, there are 4,000 weight elements. So what we are essentially doing is this J is a function of W, right? So J is a function of W, and we are trying to minimize the J or the error, okay, with respect to all the weight elements. Okay, and what we are trying to do, we are trying to minimize the cost function J, okay, parameterized by all the weight elements. Okay, so how many weight elements are there? 4,000, roughly 4,000 weight elements are there. So what we are doing, we are trying to find out an optimum value for the cost function in 4,000 dimensional space. You understand? So if you see the cost space, okay, where you essentially you have all the like each of the weight element representing one dimension, okay, and then J representing as the function of all these W1, W2 up to W4000. Okay, you're essentially minimizing the cost J in that 4,000 dimensional space. Hope you understand the thing. Here, if I can plot only up to W1, W2 at the max W3, right? But J is what? J can be some function. Okay, I can't even plot in 3 dimension. Okay, but it can be some function, right? So that what I'm trying to do, this I am trying to find out the minima of this, whatever it may be, the minima of this J function. Okay, in that dimensional space. Why I'm trying to look at the minima? Any quick answer?
Actually, we are minimizing the loss.
We are?
The loss.
Can you repeat again?
We are minimizing the loss function.
We are minimizing the loss function. Correct. So why are we minimizing the loss? Say, assume that just for simplicity. Okay, assume that we have only two weight elements to be fixed. Okay, or to be optimally set for having a minimal loss. Okay, and the weight function is something like this. Okay, like this. Okay, now let us assume that I started my optimization or minimization, okay, somewhere. So let me bring in, if there is a possibility of other color, let me bring in other color here. Okay, I am starting here. Okay, so this is the location where I am starting. So in fact, I am at actually some value, -5 or wherever. Okay, -5 for W1, and then for W2, I am at minus or +5. Okay, -5, is my starting location. At that location, this is the function. In fact, in 2 dimensions also, I can't draw fully, right? So I just have drawn something. Okay, only one axis I have drawn. Okay, assume that now I want to minimize my loss. Okay, so why we are trying to minimize the loss or the J? You have the answer, but need it in a little bit refined way.
So that our output will be nearer to target.
Right, very good. So what essentially we do is by minimizing J, we are trying to bring in, say, O is actually function of, O itself is a function of all weights. Okay, so I adjust these weights such that O comes closer to, okay, somewhat closer to targets. O reaches to targets. And then what happens by adjusting this for a large input samples? Now I'm not just minimizing with respect to one input sample. Okay, I'm minimizing with respect to this is also function of input samples. That's why I have not denoted it explicitly. Okay, with the large number of input samples, if I am trying to, if I can match the predicted values of the output neurons with the target values, okay, essentially I am giving the correct labels for each of the input samples, right? And if I do that, then essentially that W will help me to even test also. During test case, if I have a new sample, that I will be able to put into correct class. Okay, that's the idea, right? So now what I'm doing, this J, I'm here, I'm started here. So now if I apply, what is the procedure for minimization in neural networks?
Gradient descent.
Yeah, gradient descent. Okay, I assume that I start with a gradient descent. Okay, now I move through gradient descent. Where will I go? If I move through gradient descent from there, where do you think I will go? Oh, so I am here. From gradient descent, if I take, where will I go? This side or this side? Huh?
Towards minima.
Yeah, it's exactly here. Assume that it is this side. Okay, I'm going. So finally, I reach this. Okay, is this a correct local minima? Correct minima for this cost function?
It shows
Huh?
local minima, but not the global.
Right. This is referred to as local minima. Okay, this is far from the global minima. Okay, global minimum is usually desirable to reach, because global minima, the value of the cost function is lesser. That means the targets and the predicted labels or the estimated labels, okay, by the output neurons will be much closer. Also, it may be in some case, if it is, see, if it is a safe local minima, global minima, where you can clearly see here, okay, there is no much like, even if you jitter a little bit, you will not be moving out of the minima. See, for example, if you have a from here, if you have something like that, okay, then what happens? So you could have moved like this, or if from here, if you have like this, okay, so you are like it's not very good local minima. Okay, so in this is actually a global minima and also reasonably good minima. So you want to reach to this. So if you want to reach to this, initialization itself has to be reasonably good. Okay, so one thing is we need to take a proper initialization. If we initialize too far, okay, from the global minima, okay, it is little difficult to reach to the global minima. So we may not know all the time where the global minima is. Okay, but still there should be scope for reasonable learning. Okay, when we initialize. Okay, so there is a not the weights are initialized in such a way that there is a reasonable randomness or the information in the weights that like they are spread like reasonably varied, such that we will be able to reach out to the global minima comfortably or possibly. Oh, that's one aspect. Second thing is, even if we are stuck at local minimas, okay, we want to see how to reach out to the global minima. So there should be some strategies for doing it. Okay, that is that's on the optimization part of it. So after initialization, when we do basic basic learning procedure, once we are clear with backpropagation, we can't stop there, because backpropagation or gradient descent alone cannot take us to the global minima. Okay, in addition to the gradient descent, we should also have the provision or the better optimization functions, okay, for moving towards the global minimas. Are these aspects clear? Are these things clear or not?
Yes, sir, it's clear.
Yeah, fine. So now let's move on to the discussion on how we initialize. See, how we initialize in a neural network. Say, if you assume that if you have feed-forward neural network, I hope you people may remember. So if we have a feed-forward neural network, how are we reinitialization? So I assume that, let us come to the last layer where we have anyway feed-forward neural network here. So if I ask you to initialize the weights here, okay, so W, I want to just initialize. Okay, how do I initialize? Any idea on this? So here there are 192 and here there are 10. So how did we initialize? What was the initialization procedure for the weights? None of you remember? We calculate what? Essentially, say the input neurons. Okay, if there are like NH, if I say NH neurons here, how did we initialize? If you remember correctly, 1 by root NH, okay, 2 minus 1 by root NH, 2 1 by root NH. Okay, based on this, we have initialized uniform. Okay, uniform random variables or Gaussian random variables. In fact, uniform random variables is what we discussed. Okay, minus 1 by root NH to 1 by root NH. Is it not? This is how we discussed that we initialize. Yes or no? You didn't remember? None of you remember it? Okay. So we initialize using the number of input neurons. The reason for this is what? Why we initialize like this? None of you, any of you, if you remember, quickly tell. It's a very important point. Good point to tell. Why I have picked like this? I could have initialized from -5 to 5, right? Or we could have initialized from, say, only 0 to 5 or 0 to NH. Why unnecessarily is like this? What is special about this? No answer?
So the outputs are, they lie near the same range.
Yeah, outputs lie near the same range. Very good. Which range?
Between 0 to 1.
Right. Usually say what we want is -1 to 1 is also fine. So what we want is usually we use some activation functions, okay, which usually have a saturation property. We may use activation functions which may have saturation property. So as you go away from 0, okay, they do saturate, or it is little difficult to handle. So what we want to do is, after taking activation, say this W transpose X plus B, right? So what we have here outputs are nothing but W transpose X plus B. Okay, so if we once we take the output, that output we want to be in the range roughly -1 to 1. So to have the output to be -1 to 1, we want to initialize the inputs to be smaller range, or the range that is proportional to, say, 1 by the input neurons. Okay, some kind of 1 by n, like input neurons here are NH, right? So that what happens when we compute W transpose X plus B, when there are, say, W1 transpose X plus B means at that layer, W1 plus W2, W1 X1 plus W2 X2 plus all those things will be there, right? X1, X2, X3 being the values in that feature, or the neurons, okay, input neurons. And then W's are the connecting weights. So how many weights will be there to connect a particular output neuron? Okay, there will be NH, okay, here at this layer. So you will have actually NH out things connecting. Okay, and then to make that W transpose X plus B to be in the range -1 to 1. Okay, for ease of subsequent processing. Okay, we want to initialize with the -1 by root, some kind of normalization. That normalization is based on the number of input neurons. Okay, in feed-forward neural network. Okay, so in convolution neural network as well, we take some kind of similar strategy. We may not go exactly with the same strategy, but we take similar strategies. See, kernel here relates what and what? It relates the input maps and the output maps. Okay, so the kernel dimension is one other thing that will decide. So what we do is, for initialization in convolution neural networks, we define something called fan in and fan out. Okay, fan in means the number of input maps. Okay, is fan in. Number of output maps into kernel dimension is fan out. Okay, just we will define those things and use them for initialization. I'm erasing these things. Okay. So as discussed, the like kernels are connected with the input maps and the output maps, and the kernel dimension is also involved in initialization, because we essentially want to do some kind of normalization such that the W transpose X plus B, whenever we compute, okay, or the weighted sum of this, okay, roughly stays in the same range, okay, and that too around the 0, with both positive and negative being there. Okay, for having that, what we do is we define some things like fan in and fan out, where fan in is the number of input maps into the kernel size, okay, and then fan out is the number of output maps. So here number of output maps into kernel size again. Okay, so here output maps are 6 and kernel size is anyway 5 cross 5. Input maps is 5 cross 5. Input maps are 1 and 5 cross 5. So we define these two, and based on these two, fan in and fan out, the formula for initialization is 1 by square root of one fan in plus fan out. So this is the range in which we initialize. So that is, if this is A, minus 1 by root of this 2 plus 1 by root of this. This is the range in which we initialize. Okay, this is referred to as Xavier initialization. And there are different other initialization procedures in convolutional networks. Initialization also plays a very important role, because the number of learnable parameters are very, very high. You need to reasonably initialize to have the solution that is easily reachable, or at least little more, say it should not completely initialize somewhere away from the active cost function. Okay, where essentially you have the weight elements, all weight elements, if there are somewhere, okay, and if you initialize somewhere else, and try to adjust from there, it will be too difficult to reach out to the minima. So the initialization also plays an important role in CNNs. That's usually done by this, and there are some elegant procedures so to do even initialization. So as I discussed, it depends upon the layer. So here the number of input maps are only 1, but here if you see, the number of input maps are 6. Okay, and then the output maps are 12. So the initialization here will be different for the weights, and here they will be different. Here we go as it is. Okay, so we go the minus 1 by root NH to 1 by root NH. We can. Now let us bring in the discussion on the back propagation in convolutional networks.
Sir, small question.
Yeah.
Sir, what does actually fan out represent?
Yeah. Fan out is this kernel, okay, is used to get the 6 maps, right? So different, you have actually 6 kernels, each of them having 5 cross 5. That is essentially captured here.
Yes, sir, but okay.
This is actually, if you see here overall, so what we are doing is, say the extent receptive field is what is probably is captured by this fan in. So you have actually 6 channels where each 5 cross 5 is considered, and fan out is like the number of maps in which the this kernel is being used, or this kernel has the output. I'm not very fully known about exactly how they arrive at this expression, but essentially the idea is they want to bring in the weights reasonably, say close to 0, but both positive and negative, and it should be like around plus or minus 1 for W transpose X plus B. So if you consider this as W, then W transpose X plus B should be in the range minus 1 to 1. That's the rough idea.
Okay, sir.
Yeah. So this is another analogy, as I discussed before. When we have multiple number of layers, so if you have 6 layers here, okay, and if you want to get 12 layers in 12 feature maps, the convolution operation, you can also think of each feature map in the previous layer as a single neuron. Okay, and then you have 6 neurons here and 12 neurons here. So how we connected in, how we do it in a fully connected fashion. Okay, you can think of each kernel, 5 cross 5 kernel as a single weight. Okay, you can also have a visualization of this sort. Okay, where you have seen that for connecting the 6 maps to 12 maps, you need kernel of 5 cross 5 cross 6, okay, into 12. So that can also be visualized in this way. This is just another way of looking at the kernel representation from multiple input maps to multiple output maps. Okay, so now let us get into the little bit of mathematics. Let me see if I can unshare and share the notes. let us now write explicitly the forward equations, okay, and then the back propagation equations, and try to see actually what how exactly the back propagation happen in convolution neural networks. There are few things that requires again some visualization. So we will try to go back and see that. But for time being, let us start with basic aspects of CNNs. So let us bring in a input map, input X, and then the first, let us take the same configuration, LeanNet 5. Okay, because it's now known to us, and it's good enough to discuss the forward and backward propagations. And we have second convolution layer, and then we have actually the second sampling layer, and after sampling layer we flatten them. So assume that these are all flattened. Okay, and then here the same thing, but after this we have actually the output layer. S2, reshaped S2. So we will write as S2. And then you have actually some, we will write the weight elements and other things. And you have the error. Okay, Z equal to half of whatever. So we write, so in the fashion that we have written for the neural networks. Okay, feed forward neural networks. Even though there are convolution operations here, okay, and two-dimensional operations, things are not exactly same. But we will try to write to some extent based on the understanding we have. Let us try to write the forward operations and backward operations, and then go little deep into the specific aspects. See, let us try to write the forward things. See, assume that I have input X. So here K1 is there. So as dimensions are very important to understand the things. So we will write backward probably in the next slide. But first write C1. So I want to get the convolution output. So there are, assume that there are J maps. Okay. So J is equal to 1 to 6. Okay. 6 maps we want to get. What is the explicit expression I should write? Explicit expression, summation over J. What should I write? K1, we have written this before. K1J. Here, tell quickly. Convolve with X. Now, should I write summation is needed or not needed? Is this fine or not? Yeah, you people should quickly tell. Otherwise, I will write something, but you may or may not understand. You're understanding what I'm trying to do here?
Yes, sir.
There's no summation.
Yeah, summation is there or not there?
Not there.
Yeah, not there. No, because we want to get different output maps here. Right. Right. Okay. So now after this, what we have, but is there something missing here? Yes or no? Yeah, you should tell quickly. Nothing else is.
No.
Is there anything missing in the first expression?
No, sir.
Activation is supposed to be there, right? So we assume that there is an activation function F1 to get the output of convolution map. Oh, so in fact, there is a net values also here. So I have not explicitly written. For time being, if we would like to assume F1 to be linear for simplicity, that is also fine. Assume F1 to be linear. Okay, it can be later, like it can be or it can be ReLU. Okay, in general. Okay, just for simplicity, we may assume linear. Fine, then S1 is equal to what we do? Downsample of C1. For simplicity, let us write downsample. Okay, we can also take pooling, but we are not writing explicitly pooling. We'll see in pooling also how to do backpropagation and so on. We need to see that. But for time being, we assume it is downsample. Just for simplicity. Okay, again C2. How do I write C2? So how many S1 are there? How many maps are there in S1?
6.
6.
1 to 6. Okay, C2 I have to write. How do I write C2? Okay, S1 of J is here. And then K2 will be there. You should tell if I write everything, what is use of you listening before. 1 to where it should go.
6.
6. And what is C2 of what?
K.
And K goes where to where?
1 to 12.
Right. And where is, say here, in fact, there is a F2. Okay, but we may skip it for time being. For simplicity, we are skipping. But please note that there is a F2. And in fact, there is a bias also, which we skipped. Okay, so because at the beginning, we just don't want to make the things complicated and leaving them. Okay, but in fact, Bj is also there. Okay, for each of the map, you have each of the feature map, you have a bias. Here also BK will be there. Okay, and then this whole thing will come in along with activation function. Okay, those are there. But just for simplicity of initial discussions, we may leave them. Okay, fine. So again, F here also is same. Whatever we have discussed here, same thing here. Okay, so now what is after this? You have actually S2. Is again downsample. C2. Okay, so it's map to map. Please note that each map, okay, will get downsampled to corresponding map only. Okay, there is no interaction between the maps here. That means one map doesn't, so unlike in convolution operation, you add 6 maps with a different weighted sum and you will get actually another map here. Okay, so but whereas here in subsampling, just direct, okay, 1 to 1, right? So and then you have actually, how do you get small s2 from capital S2? How do you get it? Reshape operation. See, why I'm writing explicitly each of these things are, okay, when you do backpropagation, we have to do exactly same, like inverse operations. Okay, or we need to keep track of what forward operation we have done. Okay, then only we will be able to do inverse operation. Okay, and then output. O is connected with what? W, say this if we call as FC. So this is S2 or FC also people call, we can call. So FC is fully connected layer neuron outputs. Okay, so is O equal to what? Again F3 of what? This WFC if I call. This weights connecting this to this. Okay, what should I write here? F3 of W, FC into what? Into?
S2.
Either FC or S2, small S2. Okay, and then dimension of WFC is how much? How much?
10 cross
It depends upon, say, yeah, here 192 cross 1 for our dimensions. So here we will start 28 cross 28. Okay, just go with the same dimensions so that for us it is easy. And then here it is 4 cross 12. Okay, so here is 120 and 10 cross 1. Okay, so now this dimension of WFC is equal to how much?
10 cross 192.
10 cross 190. Okay, and this is anyway 192 cross 1 FC. Okay, and then total is equal to 10 cross anyway. This is equal to 10 cross 1. Right. So this is how the forward propagation is, and then finally J is equal to half of O minus T whole square. Right. So these are the equations guiding the flow in the forward pass. Now, when we do back propagation, okay, so here just let us try to see what all you need to get. Okay, we'll see how to get them later. So here anyway, dose A by dose A will be there. And here what we want, delta O, which is equal to what? Dose A, dose A by dou O. Is it not? By our notation, what is delta O? Delta O is nothing but dose A by dou O. Correct? Dose A by dose A is anyway there here. Just that, just to start. Here what we have is delta O in back propagation. And this is dose A by dou O. Hope this is clear, right? What is this answer? Dose A by dou O is equal to, just to have a quick understanding of where we are going.
O minus T.
O minus T. Okay, that you can take. Fine. Now let us bring in here. So here delta net. So we can write delta net. Okay, that's one way. Or we can also write actually. So I write small delta net. Small delta net, I define it as, okay, immediate, say it's a local gradient, I define it as small delta. Okay, global gradient, I define it as capital. So dou O by dou net, I define it as small delta. Fine. What is dou O by dou net? Just to have a recap. Here net means the value here I am considering as net. I am just defining some local variables. So dou net, small delta net is equal to what? Dou Y by dou net is what? A quick answer is welcome.
Dash F net. F dash.
Yeah, F3 dash. That's all. Okay, so which you people have seen before. So what we are doing here is back propagation. So I think that is clear to you. Okay. So now, what is delta FC? We want to write delta FC. What is delta FC? Or let us write small delta FC. Why we are writing small delta FC? I need to write capital delta FCs. Okay, if for doing something, but I am writing small delta FC. What is small delta FC, or why we are writing small delta FC? Yeah, quick answer is welcome.
Is this local derivative?
Yeah, because why we are writing local derivatives? You need to give trivial answers.
To get the global derivative by multiplying all the local derivatives.
Yeah, that's also fine. What is the other reason why I am writing first local derivative? Because it is simple to write, right? Is it not? We can't write a global derivative straight away. And it's simple to write at that location. So we are writing local derivative. Is it not?
Yes.
Yeah. So I just rewritten here just for having actually to write quickly in a neat pace. Okay, so I will keep writing it here. So we will. So we are writing now back propagation here. Okay, and then delta O we have. Here we have written dose A by dou O itself. Here, but what we have written here is delta net, small delta net. Small delta, I define it as local derivative. So dou O by immediate variable by dou net only. Okay, which is equal to F3 dash, right? And here again, what I'm trying to do is, so here, in fact, so here it is delta FC. Delta FC is small delta FC. Small delta FC is nothing but what? Dou O, sorry, dou, what small delta FC? How do we define small delta FC? I think you can give better definition. Small delta FC is what? Dou what?
Dou
Net by dou.
Dou net by dou FC, which is equal to what now? Just to get a initial start, we will use, and remaining things we will not define right now itself. Dou net by dou FC is how much?
WFC transpose.
Yeah, very good. WFC transpose. Okay, we know that net is equal to FC WFC into FC. Okay, so now what we need to write now is, so assume that I will be able to write here, say I have got WFC, delta FC. I want to write delta or delta S2, I want to write. Assume that. How do you think I will write delta S2? Capital S2. So in the forward operation, it is reshape. Okay, in forward, if it is reshape, what do you think I will do in reverse operation? Okay, in forward from here to here. What should I do here? From here to here. What? So this dimension of delta FC will be 192 cross 1. Is it not? Delta FC will have same dimension as delta FC. Okay, so 592 cross 1. Finally. Okay. So in fact, if not small delta FC, you will have the final delta FC is 192 cross 1. Okay, capital delta FC will be 192 cross 1. Small delta FC need not be 192 cross 1. Okay, so if it is 192 cross 1, then how do I get delta? So delta S2 here. Though I write local derivative, I just want to infer on the global derivative. What do I do to get capital delta S2? Quick answer is necessary based on intuition. In the forward, we are reshaping, say 4 cross 4 cross 12 to 192 cross 1. Okay, in reverse, like back propagation, you have here errors of 182 cross 1. And I need the error gradients here. Okay. So what should I get? What should I do?
You need to
Again,
convert to 4 cross 4 cross.
yeah, that's all. If you convert into 4 cross 4 cross, okay, 12 deltas, small deltas, whatever, delta S2s. That's all. Okay. So in the forward operation, again here, I have done down sampling. Okay, this is the down sampling layer or pooling layer. So in the reverse operation, what do you think I will do? In forward. In the reverse operation, what do you think we will do? Here to here. So I want delta C2 of particular map. Okay, from delta S2 now of particular map. Previously it was reverse. What should I do now? Upsample, that's all. Okay, previously I did down sampling, now I do upsampling. If I have done pooling, I will do unpooling. Okay, that's all. Okay, so we'll see how exactly we do in the next class. Similarly, here I have done convolution operation. Okay, this is convolution operation. Okay, so you see that this convolution operation from here to here, okay, with kernel K you have done, right? K2. So now you can see that this becomes a correlation operation. To get to say delta S2, S1, okay, from delta C2 of K. Okay, correlation between somehow between this and okay, kernel of K comma Z. Okay, we'll see exactly define this in the next class. Okay, exactly all these relations. But essentially, I want to indicate now that convolution becomes correlation. Okay, so now again here it is again down sampling, and this becomes again now up sampling. Okay, again here convolution, and here it becomes now correlation to get delta X. Okay, we do, even though we may not need, if we want to get delta X, we need correlation. And the kernel updates delta K1, K2, delta K2 you have to get, right? How do we get them? So any quick thought on delta K1 if you want to get? Okay, after I back propagate like this. Okay, I will establish why this is correlation for convolution and so on. Once we do that, how do you get delta K1? Any quick input? Delta K1, okay, some J or whatever, if you want to get. How do you think you will get? You got here delta C1 of J's, okay, and so on. Okay, how do you get delta K1 of J? Any quick thought, quick answer? So what did we see in neural networks? Here, if I want delta W, how do I get? Delta WFC. How do I get here? Okay, you people are all ready for the next class? Okay, think of and come back. Okay, I need in the next class how exactly we have got for delta FC. Once we did the backpropagation of errors, how we have written directly delta FC. Okay, that you revise and come. Based on that, we will tell actually delta K also how do we write, delta K2 how do we write, and so on. So we will establish more formally on this backpropagation aspects in the next class. Okay, and then I will also tell about how to get the kernel updates. And we will conclude on the backpropagation with convolution neural networks in the next class. Thank you then.